Well, welcome back to Men with Issues, the coolest Bible study on all the internet.
If you say so.
Well, I'm not aware of, I don't watch any others, so I don't know.
I don't either.
I can't watch them now,
I will
unless
say
I'm proved wrong.
I have been watching here and there that Living Waters guy. What's his name? Bray Comfort.
Yeah, yeah.
Those videos, man. He's he talks to some characters for sure.
He's not at all afraid to go in there and mix it up
Nah,
with a bunch of random dudes.
nah. And you can tell they'll get all offended, and you know, he's just calm and collected all the time.
I don't know how he does it. You know, and it's California, right?
Yeah, I think it's Huntington Beach, if I ain't mistaken.
So at the beach in California, I don't know how many
The ones I've watched anyway, yeah.
Yeah, he's right out there with his dog on his bike or whatever, riding
Yeah.
around. Like the first 5 seconds of the video, just him with his dog on the bike.
I haven't seen that one. Most of the
haven't?
ones I've seen, he's been like standing on the pier at the beach and like talking to 2 or 3 different people.
Oh man, I'm surprised. Yeah, every time I
I
watch
haven't
one
watched
of
a
those,
lot of them. Yeah,
well, I haven't either. Obviously, we've been watching the exact different ones. I guess.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
I don't know how old the videos are that I've been watching, but that could be the difference time frame.
Yeah, I have no idea what time the mine are either. But he's awful entertaining, and he is bold. He's bold.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's comfortable in his faith, man.
He's Ray comfortable.
Ray, yeah, that's nice. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together, but yeah, that's good.
Best Bible study on the internet. It's ridiculous. Oh
Yeah.
man.
But what shocks me about at least the ones that I've watched, what shocks me is that tons of these people will say that they believe in some after this life, but it's like they just cannot bring themselves to admit that it's heaven or hell
Yeah.
and that it's God.
It's completely what's funny is because we talked about this, how you believe in something, but it's like in a it's unsubstantiated, just stuff that you've kind of imagined up. It's like, why do you believe in that? I don't know. I just guess there's something there.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Well, that doesn't seem very, like a sure footing you want to stand on for eternity.
And why do you feel like people do that? Like, so they're admitting that there's something after this, but not what is clear in the Bible. It's like, I don't believe that. But I believe something happens, and I believe that, or they might even admit that. I've heard several of them say this too. They believe there is a God, but that they'll be okay, and because they feel like they're a good person. And I know it feels like we've talked about this 1,000 times, but it's funny. It goes right into what we're talking about. But
there's a lot of repetition.
Yeah, I think I'm a good person, so yeah, I think I'll be all right.
I think that's the thing. You want the love without the judgment. You don't want the judgment. You don't want a God that makes decisions and judgments on stuff. No.
Yeah.
I'm a good guy. Like, in fact, Joe's in the chat down there. He's the one that came up with a thing, which might have been Ray Comfort, talking about going to court and paying the fine. You remember him talking about that, where you go in there and you're on trial for something, and you tell the judge, well, it's okay, I've done more good than bad. The judge doesn't let you go, does he?
No. And yeah, another way he put that, I've seen him put it on there too, is when he gives them the whole, have you ever lied before? Have you ever stole before? Yeah. And they say, well, yeah, of course, everybody has, at some point in their life. And, but it was a long time ago. And, he follows right up with what you were just saying. He's like, okay, so let's pretend like, you stole a bunch of stuff 10 years ago. Okay. And you go to court and the judge says, hey, you're guilty of this, this, and this. Can you saying, well, that was in the past and I've apologized for it now, so that makes it okay. It doesn't make it okay. You still have to pay for the wrong that you did. And Jesus is like someone paying your fines for you. It's like you're guilty, you know you're guilty, but Jesus paid it for you, so you're going to go free.
No,
And
I
I think that's
imagine. Oh, go ahead.
that's a really cool way of the way he breaks that down for people. That's a really cool way of looking at it.
It's really it's like a simple,
Mm-hmm.
relatable message. That's what I like
Yep.
about him.
Yep.
And no nonsense. And when I heard you talking about this stuff, and when I hear people talk about this, like I've done a bad thing before, and we talked about it before, like adultery is even in a thought that goes toward a woman, which you're sitting there watching walk by. Now,
Yep.
what I imagine is that we are all like these, like imagine like clear containers full of water that you see right through. That everyone starts out that way, and the only person in that way was Jesus, perfect, without blemish. And
Yep.
I imagine that the first time you do something is like a drop of ink that pollutes all that water. That there's
Right.
there's no more. I'm going to be perfect. There's only
Yeah.
one for that. So I mean, there's no way to get around the fact that basically we need Jesus.
That's right.
It's got to be there. Got to be there, man.
He paid the fine for us.
That's it. He paid the fine. Hey, can I tell a story?
Please do.
All right, great. So as you know, and our friend Joe in the chat knows, I was stung in the face by a wasp today. I went out to check out. I should have known because there's a couple Goodman units that I put in, and I was going to check them out, and I was going to open up a disconnect. Ironically, the disconnect didn't even have wires in it. It was abandoned. There was nothing hooked to it. It's a long story. That's a different sort of thing. There was no disconnect for this unit any longer. It's a long explanation I can tell you separately because these people won't care. They won't care about it here with the air conditioned lingo. So I open up this disconnect, and this flurry of wasps, I've never seen them. They're like locked on. It's like watching Top Gun, and the guys behind them, and you hear the missile lock go, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. They did that to my face. So they burst out of that thing, and I'm here like, whoa, I'm falling backwards. And I get like about 5 or 6 feet away and bow right in the temple. It's like he's an assassin or something like that, right here. You can still see it a little bit. It's right there. Yeah. Good grief.
But you're not allergic or anything. You don't like
No, I'm not
break out in
allergic.
a rash or nothing
It
like
just
that.
hurts. I just want revenge is all.
Joseph, I know people aren't going to understand because they're not there people, but Joseph Wireless Goodman.
Yeah. It was it was wired, but it just didn't have the usual routing for the wire. But yeah. So this thing stings me in the face, and I'm filled with rage because I hate that, and I got the wasp spray out, and I was like lighting up everything that moved. Like Joe said, I've never seen someone use so much wasp spray before.
Yeah,
I was lighting them up.
with it.
They were going to die, and it wasn't my spray. It was the people who own the wasps. So
I think
used
at
a
some
lot of
point you just went to spraying random stuff like bush, dish, TV, satellite.
I did spray some collateral stuff. There's probably a couple moths that died or something because of the wide array.
Yeah.
But there's a big biblical lesson here. Actually, there's no lesson. It's just I was reading this week when I dropped Jackson off for speech. You know how you've called me and I've been like going to speech? Well, during speech, I either talk to you or I read the Bible. So I was reading the Bible one day and I was in Judges, and I came to a part where Samson, just like Samson and Delilah. Samson was the judge over Israel, and I said, this describes me versus the wasps, okay? Because I kind of reflected back on me during my rage. So, talking about Samson, says when he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. Now, the Spirit of the Lord wasn't on me, that's just Samson. And the ropes that were on his arms became as flax that they caught fire, and his bonds melted off his hands. And he found a fresh jawbone, wasp spray, of a donkey, and put out his hand and took it, and with it he struck 1,000 men, wasps. And Samson said, with a jawbone, wasp spray of a donkey, heap upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey, I have struck down 1,000 men, wasps. And I said, that's exactly what it was like. I was like Samson killing wasps like he killed Philistines.
Oh yeah,
It's accurate.
I don't know about that.
Well,
Close enough. Close enough.
I think I felt like Samson when he was doing his thing and then when I was doing my thing. Now, then the wasps had never enslaved Israel, so there are some differences. But that's what I was reading, so it just clicked into my head, and that's all I need.
Have the jawbone of a donkey either. I mean,
yeah,
that or Black Flag wasp spray.
yeah. I don't know. I don't remember what the wasp spray was. I just remember that there wasn't much left in the bottle when I was done. And yeah,
Jessica says you are too much.
I'm too much. I'm much too much. Yeah.
Much too much.
That's a story. Now I read the rest of Samson, and of course he has some issues. You know, they cut his hair off, and all of his strength is gone, and you know he finally killed himself. And like, what was it, 3,000? I think it was like 3,000 Philistines. He brought the whole like building down on them.
Yeah,
it was a cool story. I mean, Judges has been kind of a neat book.
Yeah.
Oh, here's something else. Since I'm going to keep talking. There is a Jephthah in Judges, which I assume maybe that's why there's a Jep in Phil Robertson's family, because there's a Jephthah in the Judges. He had a really interesting story. Actually, I'd written down something so I could remember. I thought it was cool because he was the son of a prostitute woman. Okay, he had a father, his like Gideonite father or something like that, and he had like, I would say regular children, non-prostitute children, and then he had Jephthah, who was the son of the prostitute, and the other ones cast him out. It's like almost like Joseph and his brothers all over again going to Egypt.
Right.
So they cast him out. They took his inheritance, but the thing was he was like a really good warrior. So as soon as they cast him out, a little time goes by, and these Amorites like are attacking them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because they're like, please come back and help us. He's like, yeah, I'll come back and help you if I can be your leader. And they say, yeah. So he ends up becoming one of these judges, and he actually tried to reason with the Amorites, which is kind of funny because evidently when they came over from Egypt and they were crossing through the area, none of these kings would let them go by. Because I think some of them had heard that Israel was like, had a god on their side, like the whenever Jericho fell, because the guys would come out of the city because it's like they got a real god on their side, so we're gonna stay in here and be afraid, and and then the walls fell down. It's like, yep, he's for sure on their side. So these guys they won't let him pass through there, and he says, well, we tried to pass through there, and you were attacking us, and so you know, basically, we're trying to do this peacefully, and they rejected that, and they had this whole thing, and he ended up making a vow with God, saying, whoever comes out or whatever comes out of my house, I will offer as an offering whenever I come back. Just give us victory. And the lesson here to me is that you don't bargain with God like that. Like, you know, the toilet bowl talk, I'll never drink again if you get me out of this one sort of thing.
Yep.
So he comes back and his daughter comes out of the house. So he ends up having to sacrifice his daughter because that's the vow that he made.
Right.
Just imagine that. But it's really interesting. I thought it was really good. That was Judges chapter 11. And I thought it was really, it's only like a few pages of Judges, but I thought it was really, and there's more to it, but I really enjoyed that part of it. I thought it was a really cool story.
Cool.
Yeah. Moving it over to you now. I've talked long enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been a pretty good week. I've been a little busy. It started off kind of slow, but it really took off towards the end of the week. So really busy past couple days. Looking forward to the weekend. Relax a little bit. Mother-in-law's in town. She showed up to surprise us, and she's been here since Tuesday, I think.
She surprised you?
Yeah.
Like she just appeared at your house?
Well, she was sneaky about it. She's like, she told my wife that she sent her something in the mail or something like that, and it's like, oh, okay. And then she said, yeah, it's coming today or something. And then I said, oh, okay, you know, like I've got some things to do. So do you have the delivery stuff on your phone? Like what time does it project or whatever? And she says like 4 or 5. And then it's like, no, you know, I'm sure you've tracked UPS or FedEx or whatever. It always says like by 9 a.m. or by 8 p.m. none of them say 4 or 5 o'clock. So I'm
I've never heard that one.
I'm like, Anna, she's being sneaky. I think she's coming. And of course, I was working and got home that afternoon, and her car was sitting in the driveway. I'm like, yep, I knew it. So she's been here since like Tuesday, going home in the morning.
So you just kept driving.
Do what?
So you just kept driving. There's her car.
No, she don't bother me. So it was good. She's had a good visit. I've been working, but she's had a good visit with Anna and the kids, and they went shopping and went bowling and went and done different stuff. So
that's good.
They've had a good time. So, but she's gonna get up and go back to Tennessee in the morning. So pray for safe travels for her. That's a long drive. I don't envy her on that. I hate that drive.
How long is it?
Probably it depends on how much you stop, but 7.5 hours, maybe something like that. 7.5. It'll probably be 7 for her because where they live, where we used to live, is Central Time. So she's going to gain an hour going back.
My gosh, that's a long drive. That's like when I drove all the way to Atlanta. That was 7 hours. Jeez, that's a long way.
7 hours for you to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. And
because you're way. I guess I forget how big North Carolina is, but you're way over there at the coast, and North Carolina's a pretty big state.
Yeah, it's pretty like wide. It's like 400 some miles wide, and it wasn't like it's like a slow trip. I mean, like you turn onto I-95, you go down, you get on I-20, and it says, I remember the GPS, it says like go on I-20 299 miles. It's like, holy crap, that's a long stretch right there.
I was looking at I don't remember. I don't know if I texted you about this or not, but are you familiar with pretty sure it was 17. Are you familiar with a Highway 17 that goes south out of Wilmington?
Yes, very.
Okay. Well, that Highway 17 comes all the way to me if you follow it on the map.
That's funny because we take 17 all the way to Charleston. That's as far south as I've gone using that, but it makes sense because I think it goes all the way to maybe Jacksonville, Florida, all the way down there.
Yeah, 17 comes right by me, and it's just a local like county highway. It's not like a big interstate or anything. At least down here, it's not. But
I was on 17 today.
Yeah, it comes right by me. 17's like, I don't know, 10 miles up the road, maybe.
That's wild. Just hop on there and turn left, dude. Head north and let's have a barbecue or something.
Isn't it crazy? I guess what maybe got to think about that is like when I lived in Tennessee, 40 was a straight shot between us. Mm-hmm. And now I'm in Southeast Georgia and 17 is a straight shot between us.
So I wonder what highway you'll live on next.
I know, right?
Maybe 53
just
or
pick
something.
One. Just pick one. Where does 53 go?
I got it. It goes off to the west to nowhere. Okay, well, maybe I'd pick a different one. We'll figure it out.
I can tell you, this is something else. I was watching I don't know if you consider it a documentary, but no, I guess it wouldn't be. It said it's like the 5 or 10 worst towns to live in North Carolina, and was it Whiteville? I think it was the name of it. That's west of you. It was like top 3. They said like drugs are rampant in that town.
Oh man, I don't know about all the towns on the western side of the state, but Whiteville, it is one of them places because we've done jobs in Whiteville, and I remember I had to actually get a permit for a job in Whiteville before, and it's like a dump. It's a slum place. So
yeah, they said, well, I forget what they said. They said something about like there's not a lot of jobs. There's not a lot of, it's not growing in any way. A lot of businesses shut down, abandoned buildings and stuff like that. So all people do is do drugs. That's kind of like what it's known for.
Pass the time.
That's how they pass the time, is get high, I guess. That's terrible. That's not something to laugh about, but it's,
that I'm not surprised by that. Based on going there a few times, I'm surprised. Well, there's some places like Fayetteville could be kind of rough. I mean, Wilmington can be kind of rough. There's a few places I just avoid going to.
Yeah. Well, and actually Wilmington was one of the ones that, I guess Wilmington is like booming right now. Like lots of people moving there from out of state, and it's a big
Mhm.
tourist attraction for people like going on vacation. So it's
Yeah.
kind of it's a double whammy. It's not only a vacation spot, but it's a highly sought after area for people trying to move south permanently.
Yeah, there's some really good spots in Wilmington. Of course, really good beaches. Like within an hour, there's like a dozen different beaches, and really nice one. Wrightsville Beach is right down the street. There's a couple neighborhoods in Wilmington which I always think of when people say it's a good place to live. I was like, but I
Right.
mean, for the most part, I guess it is pretty good. So, it's
Yeah,
nice.
but I mean, you're gonna have that anywhere. You know, you're always gonna think of like the worst, the worst areas because you've
So
had to work there, or you've been through there.
I think about South Central Chicken Spoke. It's rough
Uh,
down there. South Central Chicken Spoke.
There's, I will say this: there's not really a rough area. Well, depends on your definition of rough. It's not like obviously it's not like ghetto, afraid of getting shot or something like that. It's just rough around the edges people. You know.
I don't count that. I don't even count that, man.
You
Out
know,
there in the,
I don't either. I don't either. Like because like you can drive down some back dirt roads here and there'll be old rundown mobile homes with 15 cars in the yard and 15 dogs tied up in the yard, and it's all grew up, and there's some ruffians out there with no shirts on drinking beer and all this stuff, and you think, oh man, that's white trash. But here's the difference: if I was to break down in front of that guy's house, I could carry on a conversation with me and he'd probably take me anywhere I needed to go to help me out. So yes, some people might label that guy as white trash or rough around the edges or whatever, but you can still talk to him. I'm not scared of getting shot by him. So there's a difference there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. We were at the river when we went there with the church, and in the distance you hear,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear it periodically. And there's two thoughts you might have. One is somebody's shooting out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I think of is somebody's sighting in their rifle.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. They're shooting.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of time goes by, another shot. A little bit of time goes by, another shot. So he'll get it right eventually. It's gonna happen. But it's just it's where your mind goes first that kind of tells the story about what you think.
Yes, and it's what you're used to. You can normally tell when somebody's not from the area or something like that, because my neighbor, he's so annoying. He's got a loud truck, or like you said, they're shooting. Well, why would they be shooting guns? I wonder what's going on over there. Where mine in your mind frame's like probably sighting in a rifle or something. It's not a big deal. I'm not scared.
Well, I'm not saying nothing. I've literally shot stuff in my backyard with a shotgun, and like I was thinking afterwards, like I hope this doesn't scare people, because I was shooting those digital gauges. And it just if you would have saw it, you'd been like, I am never going near that guy's house. No, what saves me is the Sam's shirts. They make me seem like I'm nicer than I really am.
Seem like the typical middle-aged guy.
Yeah, typical. You can trust that guy. Look at that nice striped polo shirt he's got. I think I saw one of those $8.99 at Sam's the other day. Some crap.
Zach, this is what we are now. Which you're a little older than me, so but can you remember as like as a kid when you thought you were not a kid, but teenager or young adult, and you would consider yourself fashionable or whatever in style, and you'd look at the middle-aged guy that was wearing clothes that were popular for him probably 20 years ago or something like that, and you're like, man, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing that. Now we're those guys.
Yeah.
Because now I look at young guys and I'm like, there's no way I would wear that.
Yeah, you see skinny jeans. It's like that's not men's clothing. It's not men's clothing. That's just how I feel about it. People can wear it if they want to. I mean, it's America. Obviously, people can do whatever they want. They can switch back and forth between men and women if they want. But I won't be wearing that thing. And I think the difference between like the older people and the younger people are trying to look fashionable to fit in. And I think older people, at least I can speak for myself, there's a lack of caring about what people think about what I wear anymore. Man, I'm not trying to get a wife. Mission accomplished. They already got that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And that's where I was going, kind of where I was going to go with it was, back then they look at you like, I don't care. I don't care what you think. And I'm the same way now. Like these, as a matter of fact, one of the young guys, he's like 19 or 20. He's one of the installers. I wore shorts for the first time and to work the other day because I'm a pants type of guy. I've always wore work pants. I don't wear shorts at work. But it's been hot and I'm not crawling through insulation or anything. So I was like, what the heck? I'll wear some shorts. And they were making fun of me. That's the first time I've ever seen your legs. Your legs are white. And I'm like, I don't even care, man. I'm not trying to be fashionable. I don't care if I got white legs. Just look at them. It don't matter.
It's funny. It's like, go ahead and work your way through all these jokes. Go ahead and do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this over with. Get them all out.
Yep. Look at all the hair. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Let me go do sales. What are you doing today? I'm going to go crawl through the attic while you enjoy yourself.
Yeah, they like to give me a hard time, too, because like my hair's kind of grew out right now, and you can't really
My hair's grew out. Oh, yeah.
You can't,
yeah.
You
what
can't
a
really
hippie.
Oh, I can't. The camera's all backwards, so it's messing me up. But I got gray. I'm salt and pepper real bad in the sides of my head. And they like to give me a hard time about the gray hair. And I'm like, that's okay. You'll be there one day, and it'll creep up on you.
Yeah. Oh my
one
gosh,
day you're 18 and all in shape and, on top of the world. And next thing you know, you got 3 kids. You've been married for 13 years, and you got gray hair, and you couldn't run a mile to save your life. You'll get there. I promise you.
And when your wife goes, will you hand me something? When you get up, you go, every time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start doing it just out of habit. Even when you don't feel anything, you're like, it's like, what?
Or when you roll out of the bed in the morning, it's like it takes everything you've got. And you sound like a grizzly bear, like grunting and popping and cracking, trying to get woke up and get moving. Like, this is terrible. How am I going to feel when I'm 60 if I feel like this now?
Yeah, that occurred to me too. When I was a kid, I spent like a year or two playing catcher on the baseball team, and ever since then, every time I squat down, click, click, both my knees, click, click.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm doomed with arthritis.
Yeah, my knees and my ankles pop pretty bad. My hip every once in a while, but my knees and my ankles are
what a bunch of old people.
I know, right?
You start talking about your hip, it's like, good grief, we are old. We start mentioning hips and stuff. Don't fall down. You got your brace up. Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know where we took this crazy left turn from Bible to bad hips, but let's bring it back.
How are we going to bring this back? You got something?
I'm just going to go there. I don't have a way to smoothly bring it back, but I'm just going to jump right into something. So I was telling
guys, hold on, guys. Next segment, segue not included.
That's correct. So I was telling Zack before we got started, before we went live, that I was listening to what do they call it, the duck room or the duck call room or something like that. Not Unashamed, but the other guys, the duck call room. So they had I don't know if it was a recent video or if it was old or what, but I was watching one on YouTube a couple nights ago, and they had Willie in there talking. And at the end, they asked Willie to read a Bible verse and something that's been on his heart lately or whatever. And he went to 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 13 through 16. 13 through 16. So this is Paul talking to the church, and I'll just read it, and then I'll give some context to what Willie was talking about. So it says, has Christ been divided into factions? Was I, Paul, crucified for you? These are all rhetorical questions, Were any of you baptized in the name of Paul? Of course not. I thank God that I did not baptize any of you except for Crispus and Gaius.
I always say Gaius, but I'm not positive.
Gaius. For now, no one can say that they were baptized in my name. And then in parentheses, it says, oh, yes, I also baptized the household of Stephanus. Right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember baptizing anyone else. So basically what's happening here is Paul's trying to recall people that he has baptized. And he's like, oh, yeah, I did baptize that household as well. And the context that Willie was talking about was, you know, we always try to forget the bad, right? We try to forget the bad in our past, or even the bad that, you know, might happen this week or this day. But we should be striving to be like Paul in the sense of he's done so much good in his life that he's having a hard time recalling good things he'd done years ago, you know? So that is, I think that's a good goal to go after is, man, just do so much good in the world that you forget all the good that you have done.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I thought that was really good.
I think so too. Did you, the last line, the one right after that says, "For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, and not with words of eloquent wisdom, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of its power." That's a good line right there. That's, that's the cross is the center, the sacrifice is the center, the center, and all the people it's like, and fill in some King James words or something like that. All the people just speaking, trying to sound smart and stuff. It doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
Everything goes to the cross. It's
Yeah.
I like it. It's like, keep it simple, dude, and just tell us, the gospel. And that's what he's saying. That's neat. I did not remember that line.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, this is just a small section of a bigger section of chapter 1 where it's talking about divisions in the church. So Paul's talking about different things going on, but it was just funny that there's that little small message just right there in like 3 verses where you can take away from it, doing so much good that you forget about it. But in a whole, he's talking about, giving credit to Christ and not him is essentially what he's saying there.
Man, I got a great idea. Yeah. I'm gonna follow along what you said and put it in the chat. So people watch this later, you can see where we're at. I'll just put it in the chat.
Tony's asking in the chat, do you guys use a study Bible? Tony, I do. I think Zach, you just use a standard English Standard Version, right?
Yeah.
The one I've got, Tony, is it's NLT, the New Living Translation, and it's called Every Man's Bible, and it's a men's study Bible. It's really good. Like I think I've said in the past, that the one negative thing I see about it, I don't like, and I guess it's a negative. We'll stick with it's a negative. The words of Christ are not in red. So it's all black text. So you have to pay attention to what's going. You can't just flip through the Bible and go, "Oh, there's red words. That's Jesus talking." You actually have to read it and realize when it's Jesus talking. So kind of a bummer, but I don't have just one Bible. I've got 7 or 8 Bibles right here within arm's reach. I use it as a reference.
Oh man, you got a lot of Bibles.
Hey, look here. I even updated this past week. The one I didn't have was ESV. I've got it now.
Oh, is that mine?
No, this thing's tiny, man. Look. I mean, it's probably, I'm gonna say 6 inches by 9 inches or something like that.
Okay, that's nice.
It's a small like pocket Bible.
Oh wow!
But it's ESV, huge. So I wanted an ESV because that is that's what we primarily use at what they use at church. So when we're reading scripture and stuff, and they're putting it up on the TVs and different stuff, obviously you can follow along with a different translation, but it's nice to kind of see word for word. You know what I mean? Especially with NLT, because it's like we've talked about, it breaks down to chicken spoke terminology. So I can really get lost, especially when he's reading several verses. I'm like, whoa, where's he at? I got to get caught up here. So if I got ESV, I could just follow on word for word.
That's so funny that you said that. And there's another thing I want to read, which I kind of stumbled across, because after the service last week, I had like a 30-minute conversation with our pastor, and it started very simply. I asked him what Bible he liked to read out of at the service, and he told me, and I said, I want to know which one you're reading out of because I want my children to have the same one. So when you read, they can follow along because I'm trying to remove any obstacles between them and coming to the truth. So I figured they had the same words. I mean, it'd be easier for them.
Yeah.
So he ended up giving me a Bible to take with me to use. But there's
Wow.
a problem.
Okay.
The problem is the writing is tiny.
Oh wow, it is tiny.
The screen here doesn't do it justice. It's probably half the size of the one that I read. I can't see anything. It does have a map, which I do like, but
Yeah.
that's about the only thing in this Bible that I can see is the map. But it was a great conversation with him nonetheless. We talked for a long time, just some random stuff too. Talked about. I'll ask you about this too.
Okay.
Church membership. He was talking about membership to the church, and I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, my wife wants to be members of the church. I don't mind being members of the church, but to me, it doesn't mean anything. He said, and I told him, that's what I said to him. I said, if you preach Jesus and I listen about Jesus, I feel like I'm a member of your church. And that's simple as it is. And he sort of agreed, but said there are benefits to being a church member. You're kind of tied into a network of people you can rely on. I said, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I said, we will be church members because my wife is going to have us be church members no matter what I think about it. And I'm not opposed to it. I'm just, my opinion is that if he says Jesus died for your sins, I'm like, all right, I'm a member of this guy's church. That's
Right.
basically. So we had a long, good conversation. Basically what we had talked about, you and me, trying to touch base with him and create a bond with him. And I feel like that has started now.
Yeah. Yeah. I get where you're coming from. As far as I think the how do I put this? The human desire in us is like, oh yeah, I want my name on a piece of paper saying that I'm a member of this church. That's irrelevant, right? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
I could care less about my name being on some roll at a church. It's not about that. And I tend to agree with him when he says, it's about being plugged in and, in other words, being the church, not a building, not a member of a building, but you're part of a group of people that are, trying to go out and, share with other people and grow your little church community,
Yeah, that's and we had talked about that too. About you need to be growing spiritually and have something invested in every service. So you're listening, you're learning more about because how are you going to follow? You say Jesus died on the cross, but there's a lot more to the story that led up to that point, and it helps in understanding what's happened throughout the whole Bible. And he's teaching stuff every week, so we have to listen every week. We have to grow it to accept. And this is what I learned. I may not necessarily think that church membership is something that matters with face value, like words on a page, as far as names on a sheet. But it is valuable in that you have a group of people that are centered in Christ together that can network with each other. I understand that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I'll take it a step further too. It's like, yes, you're plugged into a certain group of people. But I also look at it as like this is my statement of saying, this is where I'm going to serve. This is where I'm going to put my time in, to, serving the body of Christ and trying to bring other people, to Christ. So I kind of look at it that way too. Like, again, It's not, look at me, my name's on this roll. I'm a member of the church. It's just saying, hey, Southside Baptist Church, this is where I'm saying I'm dedicated to serving at.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense too. And I've noticed in the past, I've thought about these things incorrectly. Like the way I came at those things was like, this doesn't matter, without kind of dismissing the real benefits of actually doing that. There is benefit to doing it. So I'm trying not to do that. And let's bring it up here so, people can say, man, why you do that for?
I think it's similar to the, the mind frame I had for several years was, I can be a Christian and I can love God and love other people, and I don't have to go to church. But I think if you're growing in your salvation, or growing in your faith, you should desire to be around other like-minded people that also want to serve. I feel like you can get a lot more accomplished as a group than you can as an individual. And also, if you're involved in a group of people, you have people to, for lack of better terms, hold you accountable. You know what I mean? Like, because if it's just you against the world, it's easy for you to just say, nah, I'm not worried about talking to that person about Jesus, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. But when you're plugged into even small groups in a large church, it's like, and you're meeting weekly or you're talking weekly, what's going on in your life? What happened this week? Blah, blah, blah. You got somebody that's helping support you,
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm working on setting that up in my own life. So we'll keep you apprised of that.
Don't use big words with me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Go on, chicken spoke.
What's going on in the chat?
Okay, there were a couple things over there, and Tony Reyes says, "Do you guys attend large churches or small?" My church, I think, would qualify as small, probably. Weekly service, something probably 75 people, something like that, maybe. What about you?
I would say, because obviously we're trying to change this, but currently, your largest group of attendance is Sunday morning. And I would say Sunday mornings is probably, I don't know, I'm going to take a stab at it and say 80 to 100 people. And then small groups, Sunday night stuff is a lot smaller. Probably, I'm going to say 15 people per group, maybe something like that. So 30 people in all plugged into some type of small group. And Wednesday nights is very small. It's, mostly about the kids, and the adults might get together and study something, or we may just, pick up around the church or help out with the kids in some capacity or whatever. Most of the time we're just supporting the kids on Wednesday night because we try to focus on them. So, but yeah, on a good Sunday, 100 people, maybe, 80, 100 people.
It's pretty good. About the same size.
Yeah.
Very nice. JR here says membership plays a big part of the business of the church, voting and decision making. And actually, it's interesting because there was a vote they sent out, and my wife was like, "You can't vote on that." They sent it out to everybody in the church. He handed me a paper, so I'm like, "All right, I'm taking a paper." And one of them was it was solidifying the church's position on marriage, which I thought was kind of funny. As far as the position comes from the Bible. But I'm guessing that there is some disagreement. People, I don't know what they're thinking, but it was just basically saying that church marriage is between a man and a woman, and not any other group or any other version of a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he makes a very good point there. As far as voting and decision making and stuff like that's a very good point because, like I was telling you before the show, that this past Wednesday we actually had our, monthly budget meeting because, Wednesday night the kids are off doing their thing, so all the adults can actually get together and talk about something because we got some time, and went over budget, where we are, where the money's being delegated to, how much money we're putting here, there, pastor salary, stuff like that, and making sure everybody's on the same page. As far as new types of missions that maybe the church is going to be pursuing, we vote on that. Make sure everybody's in agreement on pursuing something, like purchasing land and building a youth building or whatever in the future, stuff like that. So yes, that's very important. And to set, like you were talking about, just kind of have to set guidelines in the church, really. I mean, like what is our mission here? What is our goal? And like, say, for example, one of the topics was, which is in the process of being built, is, okay, you have somebody new come in on Sunday morning and they like the message, they like the people. You start noticing them. They're coming every Sunday. They come back and they come back and they come back. At what point do you have a meeting with them? Not a meeting. Well, I'll give you an example. One of the churches we went to in the past, once, you went a few Sundays in a row or whatever, they would have 2 Sundays in a row where you didn't go into the service. You actually went into a classroom with the main pastor, and one of the associate pastors preached those 2 Sundays while the main pastor met with you 2 Sundays in a row, the length of the service. And it was basically, look, this is what the church believes. This is quote unquote the denomination that we are. This is what we believe. This is where we're trying to go as a church. And, where are you at? Do you have any questions? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? If you disagree with that, tell me why you disagree and let's talk about it. So it was it was setting people up that were maybe pursuing membership at some point to say, hey, look, we just want to let you know, we noticed that you've been coming a few weeks in a row. I want us to be transparent and let you know what we believe as a church. So that's something that's kind of in the process of being worked out right now with us anyway.
I like that, actually. That's a neat system.
Yeah.
That is good. Very nice. Well.
Right.
Speaking of 1 Corinthians.
Speaking of 1 Corinthians. Okay, we'll just go there, Zach. We'll just go there.
Well, I've been saving it.
You've been saving it. All right. So this kind of ties into church and some of the problems. We were talking about this before the show as well. Some of the problems in the church. I heard a statistic this past week, and I don't know that I'm 100% accurate on this, but I'll get pretty close, and you'll get the gist from it. So according to the Southern Baptist Association, which is, what my church falls under, is the Southern Baptist Association. In the last, I believe it was 20 years. Could be wrong on the years, could be 10, could be 15. Don't hold me to that, but we're going to say 20 years. Past 20 years, there's been 1.3 million people baptized in a church that was associated with the Southern Baptist Association. 1.3 million, but yet church attendance has stayed the same or dropped slightly. So where are we dropping the ball where you have 1.3 million people getting baptized, but yet you can't say that your church attendance went up at all? There's a serious problem there. And what I think it is I think we've talked about this before, is, we've gotten too much in the routine of, oh, we got new people coming. Oh, great. They've not been saved. So, they come down to the altar, they get saved. Next step is let's get them baptized, this and this and this. And it's like, okay, great. Mission accomplished. Well done. You got saved. You got baptized. There you go. Have fun. Now go be a solid Christian, and you don't support those people and you don't help those people grow in their salvation, in their faith, like we've talked about before. You get saved and baptized. Okay, congratulations. You are now a spiritual infant. You still need to be supported. You're going to have questions about the Bible. You need somebody helping you learn as you grow in your faith. And I think that's probably where we've dropped the ball, is we've not done a good job of supporting people after they come to Christ. And so they just kind of fall to the wayside. It's like, yeah, they get saved, they get baptized, they come for a few Sundays, and then all of a sudden, they missed a Sunday. And then they might come here or there, and then all of a sudden, boom, they ain't coming no more. Mm-hmm. Nobody's reaching out, wanting to know what's going on with them. Hey, is there a problem? Nothing. It's just like they fall by the wayside. Their name might stay on, I would be scared to see the amount of people that are on, like, say, the church roster, I guess is the best way to put it, that here's the members of the church according to our to our books. Now, how many of those people are actually still coming every time the doors are open?
I'd be interested to know as well.
Yeah, I'd be scared to know that number because it's probably something we wouldn't like. You know what I mean?
I'm guessing, yeah, 20, 30% or something like that.
Yeah, you might have 50% of the people that's, members of the church actually coming. So that is one of the things that we have been focused on as a church. Like, so my pastor, Philip, just come to this church. I think it was November or December of this last year. So he's relatively new pastor to the church. And we're just trying to grow and change things. We're trying to get out of the same old that the Baptist church has been for 40, 50 years of smile and wave on Sunday and Wednesday. And then I see you in the grocery store on Tuesday and we don't speak because we're not friends. We're not close like that. And you don't grow as the church when you're not talking to each other outside of Sunday and Wednesday. So we've focused on trying to grow that and get closer as a group, because when you're closer as a group and you do things together, you're striving to go out into your community or on different missions and bring other people to Christ. So,
and if you don't have a church, when you're in that first stage, and here is chapter 3 of 1 Corinthians, right along with what you're saying, says, "But I, brothers, could not address you as spiritual people, but as people of the flesh, as infants in Christ. I fed you with milk," and you've talked about this, "I fed you with milk, not solid food, for you were not ready for it. And even now you are not ready. For you are all still of the flesh, for while there is jealousy and strife among you, are you not of the flesh and behaving only in a human way?" And that goes right along with what you're saying. And what I'm hearing is that if let's say you're not in a church, you come to Christ because you're watching an old Billy Graham documentary or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
You come to Christ and you don't go to church. So when you're in this stage where it says, "I fed you with milk, not solid food, for you were not ready for it," and you have a temptation, a strong temptation, something, a sexual temptation, because that's probably one of the worst ones. Money temptation, and you go right back into it. There's no one there to pull you back from the brink in that vital stage, and I really understand that now. What you're saying is really ringing true.
Yeah,
and I think it's almost like you have to have it, but in a true form, like a good church, like a quality church, not like we got a scoreboard in the back. We have 40 saved today. How saved are they on a scale of 1 to 10? Because only 10s are really what you should be on the board. How do you know?
And we try to really focus on that. Like, I'll just give you the rundown. So Sunday nights, we meet, we eat, and then we break off into our groups. Like I said, probably 15 and 15 roughly. So the quote unquote leader of my small group is actually the pastor. And then the other group is the associate pastor. He has the other group. So we'll split off. We'll go to our rooms, whatever Sunday school room we decide to go sit in. And then immediately the men and the women separate. And us men, we normally go to Philip's office or maybe a different room. So the women are all together and all the men are together. And all the men, we go in a room and we just talk about what's going on in our lives. Like, what happened this week? What's your highs and lows this week? What are you going through? Is work good? Is family good? Are you having medical issues? Where are you struggling? Where do you feel things are going good? And then for example, we just go around the room. So let's say Philip goes first and he says, "I'm struggling with this, but praise God, this happened this week. So just pray for me, for this, this, and this." And then we go, "Okay, who wants to pray for Philip?" And we all take turns praying for each other. Just a men's group where it's a real, down to earth time where we just pray for each other out loud. And then we do that for 30 or 45 minutes. The men get back together with the women. It's the whole group. And then we go through our discipleship study. And we do that for 30 or 45 minutes. We do that every week. And we talk through text message or on phone calls. We know what's going on in each other's lives. So, support system. Moral of the story: support system.
I like that summary. Chicken spoke summary. Those 500 words I just said? Here's 3 words that do it too.
Exactly.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Joe made a good comment there. What amount of responsibility is it on the person to make connections in the church? And thinking about that, you know what? I think it's one of those things. You let me know what you think about this. One of those things where it's not like there's a set responsibility for each person, and I don't think there's a set way that, let's say, this person comes to Christ, that person comes to Christ and stays in Christ. I don't think you can say that every way works for everybody. I think there's people that probably could be kind of quasi loners and
Hmm.
stay right in Christ because they do, like when Paul says that some people you shouldn't marry because it's easier. It's funny because he says, don't get married basically because if you're in a marriage, you're going to have a lot of temptations and squabbles and things like that. So if you can, just don't get married and you'll have a better chance of staying in Christ. That's not everybody. Both of us are
Hmm.
married. We're in
Yeah.
Christ. But I think he's saying to ensure you go that route. Just like sometimes someone can go to church and meet 20 people, and that's beneficial for them, or maybe somebody only needs one person, and that's beneficial for them. I don't know. I just think it changes from person to person, but I think you should try to with the church.
Yeah. So I'm assuming what Joe was saying here is saying, what amount of responsibility is it on the person to make connections in the church? So you're Joe. Give me some clarity here. Are you saying like, say someone goes to church for the first time, to a new church for the first time on Sunday morning? What amount of responsibility is it on them to try to make connections within that church? Or you're saying like members making connections with each other?
And we're all going to hold and wait for Joe's answer.
Well, I'm not saying we got to do that. We can come back to it. We can circle back. We can circle back.
All right, all right. Hey, that right there is politics, guys.
Yeah, we won't go down that road.
Oh man,
We may circle back to it, but
she does say that a lot.
but while we're waiting on Joe's response there, how about we read 1 Corinthians chapter 1, starting in verse 10. And this section is like what we talked about earlier, divisions in the church. So verse 10, he says, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, by the authority of our Lord Jesus Christ, to live in harmony with each other. Let there be no divisions in the church. Rather, be of one mind, united in thought and purpose. For some members of, is that Chloe's?
It does say Chloe, yeah.
Some members of Chloe's household have told me about your quarrels, my dear brothers and sisters. For some of you are saying, I am a follower of Paul. Others are saying, I follow
Apollos.
I lost my place for a minute. Apollos, or I follow Peter, or I follow only Christ. And that's where he goes into what I already read earlier, which I, took a different swing at. But he then follows up saying, has Christ been divided into factions? Was I, Paul, crucified for you? Were any of you baptized in the name of Paul? Of course not. So basically what he's saying here is, you're breaking up into these weird little groups where I follow Paul, or I follow this person, or I follow that person. Similar to what you see today in several different churches, maybe even cliques within a single church. And just backing up here, he's saying, let there be no divisions in church, rather be of one mind, united in thought and purpose. Well, how do you get to that point? You got to talk. You got to communicate with each other and figure out where each other stands. And that's how you grow stronger as a church. And I think that's where the church has failed for the last 40 or 50 years, because it's just been the smile and wave routine on Sunday morning. And then they go off into the world and do whatever. But they check that box. I went to church Sunday morning, so I'm all good. I'm all good.
Now, let me ask you, and I'm going to say up front that the church I've been going to, I'm going to say my church. I haven't been there a long, long time, but I feel comfortable in saying my church. This guy, and we actually talked about this during that conversation. I like that he challenges people that are in the seats. He just doesn't sit there and let people sit there and, punch the clock in and punch the clock out.
Right.
He actually challenges people. There was, like altar call. A church does an altar call.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you can go up to the altar if you need to pray with the pastor. He'll be up there. And, he got animated. I mean, it almost took me off guard. He's like, I know somebody needs this. Make that first step. Go up there. And he was upset. He was upset at something that was going on in his life, which he sort of semi-described. I won't describe it here. But I look, my son's nudging me on the side. I said, why is he nudging me on the side? Because usually my son's about half tuned out, counting windows in the place and stuff like that. We're working on that as well. And he nudges me, and I look over, and my wife is gone. She's at the front. And I was like, well, I want to know what, I need to, I felt the need to go support her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I said, I don't feel the need to go to the front for anything. I don't think you should go up there just to show you're going up there. And that's what I told the pastor. I don't think we do walks like that so people go, oh, look how good that guy is. Great. I don't like that. And so I went up there and sat next to her. The pastor was crying about something. The true story here. The pastor's crying. My wife is sitting there, and I'm just basically sitting next to her and just quietly just sitting there with her. And the pastor was upset. So I actually went and consoled the pastor for a second because he was noticeably troubled about the situation that he had described. So it was an interesting moment, and it almost felt like it was like almost like a bond made in the church, and I also felt like other people disappeared in the church. You were just up there, you were having your moment, and there's no special call from me. I was just up there to support Melissa and evidently the pastor as well. But it was an interesting moment because there was no like I feel self-conscious walking up here, stuff like that. It's like the room disappeared. Everyone else disappeared. It was just a few people. It was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have totally changed the way I viewed church for a long time. So I was never, even when I was growing up, we were never the type that sat on the front row and, was loud singing during praise and worship and, shouted hallelujah or amen or nothing like that. We just weren't that type. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's just the way it was. But now I'm like, I think the more I try to focus on Christ and being the leader of my home and growing in my faith and, growing in the group, the small group in the church and stuff, I don't get wrapped around the worldly way I used to look, the way I used to look at stuff in church. Like, they're looking at me, they're judging me, look at them over there with their nose in the air. I don't want people to see me singing during praise and worship and stuff. I don't care. We sit literally dead center, 3 rows back. We're right up front. And praise and worship, I'm singing, and I don't care if anybody sees me or not, because I'm not there for everybody else. I'm there to praise God and listen to the message. So I try to focus on that. I mean, as far as going, like you were talking about, going up front and praying like altar call at the end of service, I go up there occasionally. If it's if I feel like the Lord's tugging on me to go up and pray. It's not about show. It's just it's an altar call. It's an invitation to come up and pray. So I'm gonna go up and pray. It's not about well, look at me, I took that step or nothing like that. It's just not like that. So
I think that's a distinction that should be made then. The altar call, if you're going up there and you're thinking about everyone else in the room and how they're looking at you, then maybe it's not the right time for you to go up there.
Exactly.
And if you feel like there's someone in pain or there's something that, I don't know. I'm perfectly fine with if I want to talk to God, I can do it at my seat. I'm sure He still hears me just fine at my seat than up front or wherever I'm at, in a tree or in the back of my truck. I'm sure I can talk to Him anywhere. But if there's someone in pain, genuine, you can tell they need help, I got no problem with that. I think that's a good thing. But I just, and it's what I told him. I said, I don't want to fall in the trap, because I have fallen in the trap many times. We have social media careers and stuff like that, of wanting to be in the limelight or wanting people to like that video or comment on the video. So I try to avoid putting myself back into that position, because I'm weak against that stuff. and that's
Yeah.
tough for me. So I try to avoid it,
Yeah.
and don't always do a good job with that. But
Yeah. I mean, I have been just I don't think we've talked about this, but I feel like and I shouldn't say I feel like I know um Philip, the pastor, has been kind of, you know, leaning on me to, hey man, when you want to lead a group, by yourself, um, you know, you lead the class through a lesson or whatever, and start doing, because eventually I think the goal is to have several small groups and maybe not have to go to the church to do it. Maybe we meet at somebody's house. A lot of churches do that. They rotate, weeks. We're at, the Gill's house this week, or we're at the Beaver's house this week, or whatever, just in a comfortable, relaxed environment in somebody's home. And so he's been kind of trying to get me to be more involved in different stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know if it's a leadership role. I don't like using that word, but my thing is, if it was spotlight for me, I'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm ready. Look at me. My goal has been, I'm going to be faithful to what God wants me to do, and I'm going to pray about it, and I'm going to seek His will in this situation. I'm not just going to, like you said, I could be guilty of doing something like that. So I don't want to do that. I want to pray to God about it. And if He feels the need for me to do something like that, then I'll do it. But it's not going to be because it's something Justin wants to do. It's something I feel the Lord is calling me to do. So that's where I'm at with that.
well, it sounds about right. Looking at James chapter 4, verse 13. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit, basically boasting about what they're going to do. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. I think that sums it up right there.
Absolutely.
God may have to do something that you don't like. So, I mean, that's just it. I've said that many times in my conversations with the Lord, that do your will. I'm kind of scared what that might mean, because I don't know what that's going to mean in my life here on earth, and that a little bit apprehensive, a little bit afraid of what that could be.
Yeah, and I think prayer is the big part about it, because a lot of times, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, it's going to require you to get out of your comfort zone and do something you're not used to doing. And maybe, like you said, maybe you're nervous about it. Maybe you feel like you're going to slip up or whatever. So yeah, I'm constantly talking to the Lord about it, because, I want to make sure it's the right decision before I just say, yeah, willy-nilly, yeah, I'll do this, because I take something like that pretty seriously, especially like if you're leading a small group or something. If I'm not in the right place and I'm not, interpreting the message the correct way, or I feel is the correct way, then I don't want to be responsible for teaching somebody wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm right before I start trying to guide other people, I guess.
It's interesting you say that, because I'd have the same fear, and that fear, now, could it not be placed on you by how people said the devil maybe do it, but maybe the devil also makes you not do certain things. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
right.
going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I don't want to mess up. And I'm not saying that, you might be right. I mean, there's places in the Bible here to talk about, people leading the church ought to be wise and older. I can't remember. I think it's Timothy. But, I mean, maybe, hit that stumbling block. How many times does the Bible mention being a stumbling block to somebody? I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
17. I have no idea. But what if you get that block placed in front of you? I can't do this because what if I say the wrong thing, or we read the wrong verse, or I don't quote something right, or don't help somebody the right way? But then you don't help anybody. Instead,
Right.
I mean, I think
true.
and we do that to ourselves all the time. So I mean, I
I think that's what gets back to being, it's super important that you seek His will, because you try to figure it out on your own, then then you have 50,000 questions, just like you were saying. Is it the devil, holding me back? Is it me? Is it, what is it? I'm just going to seek his will and look for his sign that it's what I need to do.
Yeah, I think you just gotta, as Carrie Underwood said, Jesus take the wheel. I mean, essentially that's what it is, and that's really chicken spoke way of putting it too.
Very chicken spoke, yes.
But it is. I mean, you have no control over anything. And I'm not to be, morbid or anything like that, but you make your plans and you might die the next day.
Yeah.
So I mean, your plans mean nothing. I mean, being short bursts, you think you accomplish something, but in the long run, I mean, how different is your life than you would assume it would have been when you're a kid?
Yeah.
A fair share, probably.
I think the Lord knows he's got to talk to me in chicken spoke, just like I've talked about before. Whenever I start going back to church and the sign on the church driving down the road and stuff, I think he knows he has to reach out and slap me sometimes because I'm hard headed. I don't get the message, So just like that situation. Okay, look here, dummy. I'm gonna put it in plain text on a church sign for you to see. Do you get me now?
I couldn't. If I'm reading the Bible, I don't know, man. But if you put it on a large sign shaped like an arrow, I've got it. Hey, I got one more for you, and then I'll turn it over to you because we've been a while now. I didn't realize we've been that long. So.
Yeah, we've been going.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's been on a roll. My wife's saying, like, you coming in here or what? And, so in that spirit, here's my last reading for today. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 1 through, let's see how far we go, 5 maybe. It says, And when I came to you, brothers, did not come proclaiming to you the testimony of God with lofty speech or wisdom. For I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And that sums it up for me. Jesus Christ crucified, that's the center of the whole thing. And I was with you in weakness and in fear and much trembling. And my speech and my message were not in plausible words of wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power, chicken spoke, so that your faith might not rest in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God.
Yep. In chicken spoke terminology, point people to Christ, not yourself.
Yeah. If you're talking Christ, you're good. If you're talking something else, wealth, building your own life up, then you're not there.
Prosperity.
That's what I was getting at there. Prosperity.
Oh,
Steen, that's crazy.
Old prosperity message.
Yep. You too can be whatever it is, rich, powerful. I'm pretty sure that's directly opposite of what it says here. But that's a lot of people too, man, that listen to that. There's a lot of dudes.
I'm just going to say this. I'm not saying the Lord can't bless you, because he absolutely can, and he blesses people every single day. But I think my definition of blessing and their definition of blessing is two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And
man, yeah, okay.
I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah. Well, this could be a whole nother thing, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a whole nother thing.
We could go for a while on that. So we'll wrap this up. I think we had some good discussion tonight. I think it went good. There wasn't a whole lot of awkward pauses. So
we're really cutting down on those awkward pauses.
We're cutting down on them. That's a good thing. That's a good sign. So appreciate you guys.
I was trying to get you to stop for a minute because
okay.
I want to create an awkward pause.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Here we go.
It's like, what else do we have here? There's scissors. People on the podcast, those are scissors.
Yeah. People listening on the podcast are like, what is going on right now?
ASMR crap are we listening to?
Okay, we'll wrap this up. Shut up about it.
All right. Go ahead.
Guys, we appreciate it. Good chat in the good talk, good topics in the chat tonight. We appreciate that. Keep it coming. Guys on the podcast, appreciate you too. Give us some type of star rating or review on there. Help us out tremendously. Share it with somebody. If you think that there's somebody out there that could benefit from it, absolutely share it with them. That's the whole goal here, is share the gospel with people. So you guys have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week.